Good afternoon, colleagues. Imina 35 na la legislatura in Guam is back from recess, and at this time, Madam Clerk, 1 second, please, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, we are in motions right now, and at this time I will recognize Senator Certeza.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Rule 1.02F7B, I move to place the Governor's nomination of Arthur San Augustine to serve as the Director of the Department of Public Health and Social Services into the voting file for confirmation, and would like to speak on this motion. Pursuant to our rules, after the debate on this motion to confirm, if the motion passes, the motion to confirm will be placed directly into the voting file for voting at that part of the agenda.
Senator Certeza, you may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. The nomination of Arthur San Augustine as Director of the Department of Public Health and Social Services was reported out of the Committee on Health, Tourism, Historic Preservation, Land, and Justice after a public hearing, with 3 votes to pass, 2 to report out only, and several members not voting. He has served in the acting capacity since July 31, 2020, and his appointment was referred to my committee on August 5, 2020. I requested to speak on this appointment, not necessarily because I have any reservations or concerns with the person who has been appointed to serve as the Director of the Department of Public Health and Social Service, but more so because I feel it is important that the body discuss and contemplate the gravity and responsibility of this position during this particular time when our island is facing a health pandemic and is struggling to control a virus that has taken many lives over the last 9 months. That has shut many businesses down and put more than 30,000 people out of work. That has kept many of us isolated and limited from spending precious in-person time with our family and close friends, and that has completely overwhelmed our healthcare system. This particular nominee has dedicated his career to serving those in need and to the Department of Public Health and Social Services, often called upon to serve as acting director during his long tenure with the agency. The list of divisions and the normal responsibilities of the director is significant and should be acknowledged here. They include the Division of Public Health with the dental program, the health professional licensing, Office of Epidemiology and Research, Office of Vital Statistics, the Community Health Services section, which are all the diabetes control, tobacco prevention, sexual violence prevention, breast and cervical cancer detection programs, other cancer programs, behavioral risk factor systems, non-communicable disease control programs, the Office of Minority Health, Maternal and Child Health, STD, HIV prevention, hemophilia care, and family planning programs, the Bureau of Communicable Disease Control, the Bureau of Family Health and Nursing Services, the Bureau of Nutrition Services, the Bureau of Primary Care Services, the Medicinal Marijuana Program, the Division of Environmental Health with its inspections and enforcements, its compliance and investigation bureaus, its Food Safety Task Force, and the Division of Public Welfare, which includes the Bureau of Economic Security, SNAP, cash assistance, medical assistance, child care assistance, the MIP, Medically Indigent Program, and BOSA, the Bureau of Social Services Administration, which administers the Child Protective Services and administers child foster homes and shelters. And of course, the Division of Senior Citizens, from which this nominee comes from, and in the classified service. And this division, of course, has many duties, including provision of services to older individuals and managing the Title III aging programs through federal funds, and the Bureau of Adult Protective Services, among others. So while I have utmost confidence in this nominee to be the director of the department, despite this long list of duties, we are today going to be considering nomination during an extremely difficult time, and we'll be relying on this person to carry the burden of leading us out of this pandemic with the full unprecedented health emergency powers under Chapter 19 of Title 10 as the primary public health authority. And we've seen with the former director that this position can entail directing millions of dollars worth of procurements and federal funds, huge pressure from the administration, the hospitals and healthcare companies, lawyers, doctors, business owners, and how the director can be seemingly pitted against the administration, the legislature, even the community. He's coming in at the worst time, in the middle, when the entire community's efforts at pre-planning were led by a different director and, frankly, many decisions beyond his control at this point. So I just wanted to put on the record that when we confirm for this position and put our support behind it, that we do so with the understanding and commitment to provide the department with all the resources it needs, that we do not scapegoat the department when it is everyone's responsibility to improve our situation, that we demand that all other parts of the government, the advisory groups, the private sector truly work with the Department of Public Health and Social Services to implement a clear plan to move our island out of this health emergency that has been communicated effectively to the public. And I know the employees at the Department of Public Health and Social Services are working extremely hard and are trying their best to respond to the numerous roles they play in testing, contact tracing, quarantine, isolation, public outreach, services to vulnerable populations, development of guidance for safety protocols for businesses and agencies, and monitoring of the compliance has now been put on their shoulders. These many responsibilities cannot fall on this department alone and will require other parts of the government and private sector to assist them in these extremely daunting tasks. But I am urging as strongly as I can, as I consistently have since the beginning of the health emergency, that the administration and this department provide the community with real-time data regarding the allocation of resources, positive cases, the sources, locations, and details regarding community spread of the virus, and an understanding of what decisions are being made and what data it is based on. I am not satisfied with the timeliness nor the extent of information being shared with the community, and delay does not build the trust that is critically needed at this time. Although I want to acknowledge that as we came into session at this moment, the governor is giving a press conference with some very vital information, and I have asked that we be allowed to listen to that, but we have proceeded with session. I also expect advocacy by the director on behalf of the people of Guam and the services the people need from this department that does not bow to politics and clearly states what is needed for the benefit of those most vulnerable in our community. For example, the understaffed Division of Environmental Health for years put our community at risk. The inability to access Medicaid funding appropriated in prior years due to transfers out of that department also weaken our healthcare infrastructure and ability to care for those in need. I expect denunciation of scare tactics or the threatening of furloughs of public health staff in the middle of the biggest public health emergency our island has seen, and I expect policy to be driven by data and by unwavering allegiance to saving lives. To be clear, this is the governor's nominee, and we place great hopes in him as we cannot remove him after confirmation. And notwithstanding the autonomy after confirmation, I expect the director to serve first and foremost the people of Guam, to be direct and completely forthright with the people of Guam immediately, and to remove any impediment that keeps information from the public, to make it his goal that he puts health first with listening, with compassion, with facts, with science, and that he stands his ground when necessary, and that he make his goal the truth and fast action, to earn the trust of the people of Guam who are relying on him now. And so with that, Madam Speaker, I move for the confirmation of Mr. Arthur San Augustine as the Director of Public Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Senator Therese. On the motion to confirm, anyone else wishing to speak? If not, Senator, would you move it to the voting file?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the motion to confirm the nomination of Arthur San Augustine as the Director of Public Health and Social Services to the voting file.
On that motion, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Are there any other motions right now? Senator Marsh Taitano.
Suzuis Masi, Madam Speaker. I also have a nomination that I would like to place on the agenda.
State your motion, please.
From the Committee on Heritage and the Arts, Parks, Guam Products, Hagatna Revitalization, Self-Determination, Regional Affairs, I move to place the nomination of Maria Flor Herrero to serve as a member trustee on the Guam Educational Telecommunication Corporation Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Senator Taitano. The committee report has been uploaded. So on that motion, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Any other motions? Senator Therese.
Thank you, Madam
Senate
Speaker.
Legislative Secretary. Senator Therese, please proceed.
Thank you. I'd like to move the nomination of Dr. Berg to the Guam Board of Medical Examiners be placed on the agenda.
Voting file. On the agenda.
Yes, on the agenda.
On the agenda?
Yes.
Senator Therese, I'm just going to take a moment's recess so the clerk can confirm which avenue to take.
Okay.
Imina 85 na legislature in Guam is back from recess. Committee on Rules Chair, just for the point of information on the reports that are up.
Suzuis Masi, Madam Speaker, and just again, a point of information on the committee report for Dr. Nathaniel B. Berg. It was filed on the 15th of October at 2:28 p.m.
So thank you so very much, Senator Lee. Senator Therese, on the motion to reconsider, please, based on legal's interpretation.
Sure, Madam Speaker. I just want to note that it was submitted to the Committee on Rules much earlier than that. But it was finally approved October 15. So I would like to move to reconsider the nomination of Nathaniel B. Berg as a member of the board of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners.
On that motion, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Senator Therese, on the motion to place.
Thanks, Madam Speaker.
On the
I'd also
motion,
like to, place the nomination of Dr. To the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority's Board of Trustees to be placed on the agenda.
Madam Speaker, point of information.
hold on a second. I do apologize, colleagues. The clerk has shared with me on the motion to reconsider. It was supported and passed. That motion was passed. So on the motion to place, hold on.
To make a motion to place, okay.
To-
So if I may move to place the nomination of Dr. Nathaniel B. Berg, to the Guam, as a member of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners
To
on
the
the
vo-
agenda.
To the voting file.
No, to the legislative,
On the
on the
agenda.
agenda, yes.
On the agenda, on that motion, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Senator Therese, I will still address you if you have another motion or even a notwithstanding motion. Please
Thank you.
proceed.
Yes, I'd like to make just one notwithstanding motion and hoping that the committee report will be placed. It was filed on submitted to the Committee on Rules on October 8th. It is for the nomination of Dr. Michael J. To the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority Board of Trustees. So my motion is to place that nomination on the agenda.
On that motion, Senator Lee, Committee on Rules Chair, I will recognize you on a point of information.
Certeza Masi, Madam Speaker, and I'd have to object to this motion. Again, Committee on Rules is currently reviewing this. We have had dozens of committee reports for both bills and nominations submitted well after our Committee on Rules deadline, and it's imperative that the Committee on Rules has the opportunity to review all of these documents to make sure that they're in order. Many times, the Committee on Rules has had to send these committee reports back for corrections, and it takes some time to be able to process all of that, Madam Speaker. And again, in the interest of transparency for ourselves and for our people, it's important to have these documents up and available for the public to view and for all of our colleagues to view before we make these decisions, before we place these items on our agenda and up for a vote. Certeza Masi.
Thank you, Senator Lee. Colleagues, there has been an objection. All those in support of Dr. being placed on the...
Madam Speaker, point of information. Just wanted to submit. I understand the burden on the Committee on Rules, but this committee report was submitted on October 8th, the day of the Committee on Rules meeting, prior to the meeting. And so I can wait until when we're going to come back to vote and make this motion, but I just wanted to make sure that it gets on this session, Madam Speaker.
Duly noted.
If
So,
I'm
Senator,
hoping
I'm
I can
gonna
make
ask-
this motion, we can pass it notwithstanding. It can be reviewed and placed up online and in time while we are waiting for engrossment of the bills.
Thank you. On that reconsideration, for that motion, I will entertain that. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Motion carries. Senator Therese, you still have the floor. Do you have any other motions? Senator, Legislative Secretary.
Certeza Masi, Madam Speaker. I move to place on this session agenda the appointment of Roland S. Certeza to serve as a member of the University of Guam Board of Regents from the Committee on Higher Education and the Advancement of Women, Youth, and Senior Citizens.
On that motion, seeing or hearing, are there any objections? Hearing or seeing no objections, motion carries. Legislative Secretary, you still have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I move to place on the agenda the appointment of Mike W. Nahala'awa, a member, University of Guam Board of Regents from the Committee on Higher Education and the Advancement of Women, Youth, and Senior Citizens on the session agenda.
On that motion, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, Motion carries. Legislative Secretary? Done? Any other motions on the floor? Thank you. Senator Therese, I'll go back for the motion to place in the voting file. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'd like to move to place in the voting file the nomination of John Regents as a member of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission to the voting file.
On that motion, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Senator Therese, you're still recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to move the nomination of Jeffrey Reyes as a member of the Ancestral Land Commission to the voting file.
On that motion, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Senator Therese?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to move the nomination of Nathaniel B. Berg as a member of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners to the voting file.
On that motion, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Senator, I think you have one more.
Yes, and thanks to my colleagues. I'd like to move the nomination of Dr. Michael J. As a member of the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority's Board of Trustees to the voting file.
Do you have an objection? There is an objection. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion carries. You have one more, Senator Therese? We are in a brief recess. No, did it? Emina 85 na legislature in Guam is back from recess. Senator, Legislative Secretary Shelton, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to place in the voting file the appointment of Roland Certeza as member of the University of Guam Board of Regents. Roland Certeza.
On that motion, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Legislative Secretary, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also move to place the appointment of Mike W. Nahalawa as member of the University of Guam Board of Regents into the voting file.
On that motion, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Senator Shelton that's it. Are there any other Senator March Taitano on Ms. Herrera.
Sidus Masi Maskahulu. I move to place the nomination into the voting file, the nomination of Maria Flor Herrero to serve as a member trustee on the Guam Educational Telecommunication Corporation Board of Trustees.
On that motion, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. We are going to be in a moment's recess. Thank you, colleagues. Imina 85 na legislatura ng Guam is back from recess, and I will go ahead and acknowledge the Assistant Majority Leader at this time. Senator Marsh Taitsunu, you are recognized.
Saina Maasi, Maska Halu. We have exhausted items on the second reading file, and I move that we go to recess until October 19th, 2 p.m., and that at that time we go into the third reading voting file.
Thank you. On that motion, are there any objections? Seeing and hearing none, motion carries. Please be safe and take care, colleagues.